Kash Patel walked into that hearing room like he'd done it 100 times, confident, calm, untouchable. But the moment Jasmine Crockett opened her folder, everything changed. In front of cameras, colleagues, and the entire country, she read one line that made Patel's smirk disappear in real time. This wasn't just a political skirmish. This was a reckoning. You could see it in the way his lawyer froze, in the way Patel's voice cracked as he tried to respond. What Jasmine revealed live on air didn't just catch him off guard, it might have ended his entire defense. And when Patel walked out of the hearing mid-question, even the chairman was speechless. If you care about the truth, if you believe no one is above accountability, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story, because what happened next will leave you stunned. This isn't just another scandal. It's the moment power met receipts. And this time, the cameras were still rolling. It was a slow, gray Wednesday morning in Washington, D.C., the kind of day where the sky seems stuck in neutral and everything feels just a little off. The breeze was heavy with the smell of rain, and across the city, people moved like they were waiting for something to happen. But inside the Rayburn House office building, room 2141, nobody expected the storm that was coming. Most hearings start the same: stale coffee, stiff collars, and staffers half glued to their phones. Cameras quietly blinked to life, recording what everyone thought would be another dry day of bureaucratic talking points, another performance of politics as usual. But when Jasmine Crockett stepped into the room, everything changed. She didn't make a scene. She didn't smile for the cameras or shake hands for the press. She just walked in with a calm, focused energy that made people look up from their phones. She carried a single slim folder. It wasn't flashy. No tabs, no stickers. Just clean, clipped, and locked in her hand like it contained something more than paper. Across the room, Kash Patel, the man of the hour, sat waiting. Legs crossed, jacket tailored to perfection, a red tie just bold enough to be cocky. He leaned back in his chair with the confidence of someone who's been on too many news shows and learned how to dodge every question with flair. He wasn't nervous. He was relaxed, even playful, laughing quietly with his attorney, smirking like the whole thing was a formality. He wasn't ready. The chair of the hearing, Representative DuPont, opened the session. His voice was measured, steady, the kind of tone only a long career in Washington could train. He reviewed the agenda, procedural, harmless. Patel was there to clarify inconsistencies in past testimony regarding a classified March 14th briefing. Nothing scandalous, nothing extraordinary, just cleanup duty. Or so he thought. The first few rounds were predictable. Representatives asked questions. Patel answered smoothly. He knew how to play this game. Clip his words, keep it vague, never look rattled. He'd done this before, probably expected to walk out with a few headlines, maybe a chuckle from his usual defenders in the media. Then came Jasmine. She waited her turn, not a single note out of place. She sat quietly, listening to every response, every deflection. She didn't rush. She didn't interrupt. She simply waited. When Chairman DuPont finally nodded toward her, she adjusted the mic and leaned forward slightly. No theatrics, just clarity. Mr. Patel, she began, you stated in your previous testimony that you had no written communication with Mr. Devlin regarding the March 14th intelligence briefing. Is that correct? Patel nodded without hesitation. That is correct. Jasmine didn't flinch. She didn't even look up. She reached into her folder, pulled out a document, and slid it toward the clerk. Then, I would like to enter into the record this memo, dated March 13th, addressed from your personal email to Mr. Devlin's private account. Patel blinked. It references the March 14th briefing directly, she continued, and outlines multiple internal concerns and strategy points. A silence moved across the room like a curtain falling. Patel opened his mouth, but nothing came out. That must be a mistake, he said finally. That can't be accurate. Jasmine still didn't look up. She reached again into her folder, flipping a page. Here's the metadata from your email server, she said, now placing a second sheet in front of her. The timestamp matches exactly. Signature matches 3 archived documents from your past communications, and it was CC'd to 2 other individuals also under review. Patel shifted in his chair. His lawyer leaned in, whispering fast. And just like that, the temperature in the room dropped. This wasn't grandstanding. This wasn't partisan. This was a surgeon making the first incision, and it rattled him. Cameras zoomed in. One of the interns in the back whispered, "Oh, she's cooking him." The reporters watching from their press feed started typing faster. On Twitter, the hearing was beginning to trend, not because of Patel, but because of Jasmine. Then she looked up. "I have more," she said calmly. "But let's start here. Would you like to explain why you testified under oath that no such email existed?" Patel tried to regain control. He cleared his throat. "It may have been a draft," he said, "one that never got sent." Jasmine tilted her head. "Would you like to revise your statement for the record?" Patel looked toward his lawyer again. The confidence was slipping. "That depends on what else you have," he said. Jasmine reached for a third document. And that's when the whole room realized something. She was holding the match, and Patel was standing in gasoline. The room was no longer just watching. It was leaning in. Jasmine slid the third document slowly across the table, like she was placing a final card on the table. A document that didn't shout, but whispered danger. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The silence did the shouting. "Mr. Patel," she said evenly, "this is a reply from Mr. Devlin to the memo you claim was a draft that never went anywhere. It reads, and I quote, 'Understood. I'll make sure the committee never sees this version.'" Patel's jaw clenched. His gaze darted from the document to his attorney and back again. "That doesn't prove intent," he said, his voice now sharp with defensiveness. "It could have meant anything." Jasmine leaned back just slightly, her hands folded neatly. "Then help us understand what it means. Because right now it sounds a lot like you were deliberately hiding material evidence from this committee and the American people." Patel opened his mouth to speak, but his attorney placed a hand on his forearm. A silent cue. "Stop talking." But Patel couldn't help himself. "You're twisting things," he said, louder this time. "This is a political ambush." And there it was, the shift, not just in his voice, but in the room. The composure was slipping, and everyone could feel it. Cameras zoomed in. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens. A Fox News producer backstage muttered, "We've got something real here." Jasmine didn't blink. "No one ambushed you, Mr. Patel. You walked in here under oath. You gave your word. And now, well, now the receipts are doing the talking." A reporter in the press row mouthed, "Wow," as he typed. Chairman DuPont, who had been watching carefully, cleared his throat. "Mr. Patel, the Congresswoman has asked a question. You may answer or invoke your rights, but you are reminded that this committee takes perjury seriously." The word perjury hung in the air like smoke after a spark. Patel fumbled. "There's no perjury. This is all being blown out of proportion." Jasmine leaned forward now, her voice a razor wrapped in silk. "If it's all just a misunderstanding, then why did your legal team request to redact this exact memo from Discovery last month?" Patel froze. Brenda, Jasmine's aide, passed her another document. It was short. 1 page, but it had teeth. "This," Jasmine continued, "is a copy of your team's correspondence with committee counsel. You specifically requested that the March 13th memo be withheld, citing executive privilege, even though you weren't a federal employee at the time. Care to explain that legal maneuver?" Patel turned to his lawyer. "We were advised that—" Jasmine cut in softly. "No one advised you to lie, Mr. Patel." Bio, another murmur through the room. He snapped back. "I didn't lie." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Then maybe you'll have no issue verifying this?" She lifted a printed screenshot, a text exchange between Patel and Mr. Devlin from the morning after the March 14th meeting. She didn't need to dramatize it. The words did all the work. "Patel, we're good. That memo's buried. No trail." The air in the room thickened. Chairman DuPont took off his glasses. Patel began to speak again, but his lawyer whispered something fast. Whatever it was, it made Patel recoil. The color was draining from his face. "Congresswoman," DuPont said carefully, "if you have additional documents you wish to submit to the record, you may do so now." Jasmine nodded to Brenda. She slid a final folder across the table. These contain encrypted messages from an internal app used by Mr. Patel and several others. The content will be verified by an independent cybersecurity analyst this afternoon, but preliminary review indicates that these communications, many of which reference classified briefings, were intentionally kept off federal servers. This was no longer about one memo. This was a pattern, and the walls were closing in. Across the country, clips were already spreading online. One TikTok had over 1 million views by the time Jasmine submitted her last document. The caption read, "When receipts are louder than rhetoric." In a diner in Ohio, two veterans watched the live feed from a muted TV. One turned to the other. "She's not playing with him. She's going for truth." Back in room 2141, Chairman DuPont cleared his throat again. "Mr. Patel, we are going to call a brief recess while counsel reviews these materials." Patel didn't wait. He yanked off his microphone and stormed out. Cameras caught every step, and America watched a man unravel. Patel's footsteps echoed down the marble hallway like distant cannon fire, sharp, decisive, unnerving. Cameras tracked him from every angle as he turned sharply into a side chamber reserved for legal consultations. His attorney followed, lips tight, face pale. The door closed behind them, but the world was already watching. Inside room 2141, the silence was jarring. Jasmine sat perfectly still, her fingers lightly resting on the final folder Brenda had placed near her microphone. She didn't glance at it. Not yet. Timing mattered. Chairman DuPont leaned over his mic, clearing his throat. "We are in recess. Counsel will advise on next steps regarding Mr. Patel's abrupt departure." The hearing paused, but the story did not. Outside the Capitol, news crews went live. The words "Patel walks out under oath" scrolled across screens in real time. CNN brought in legal analysts. MSNBC pulled up Patel's old interviews and contrasted them with Jasmine's line-by-line deconstruction. Even conservative outlets struggled to frame it. Meanwhile, Twitter was a wildfire. Hashtags exploded. Shachasar Patel meltdown. Shachasar Jasmine with the receipts. Shachasar, where is the memo clips of Jasmine's calm delivery versus Patel's visibly unraveling expression, flooded every platform. TikTokers broke down the memo's metadata. Instagram stories reposted Jasmine's quote, "No one advised you to lie." Sir. At a gas station in Flagstaff, Arizona, a man replayed the hearing from his truck, shaking his head. In Des Moines, a retired schoolteacher wrote a letter to her congressman for the first time in 20 years. In Atlanta, a youth pastor showed his confirmation class a clip of Jasmine calmly dismantling deception. Back inside the Capitol, in a break room 2 floors above the hearing room, staffers crowded around a monitor. "She had him cold," one said, eyes wide. "But what's in the folder?" another whispered. Brenda knew, Jasmine knew, and a few cyber analysts in an undisclosed location also knew. But they were waiting, because the storm wasn't over. It had just changed direction. Inside the private consultation room, Patel slammed his palm on the table. "Who leaked that memo?" he barked. "That wasn't in discovery. That wasn't supposed to be found." His lawyer didn't respond right away. Instead, he opened his laptop, pulling up an internal server access log. One entry blinked in red. "Someone on your team pulled it 2 weeks ago," the lawyer said, "and they either dropped it or sent it." Patel's eyes narrowed. "You think Devlin flipped?" "Or someone close to him. It doesn't matter. We need to contain it before she opens the next folder." But it was already too late. In room 2141, Jasmine quietly conferred with Brenda. "Not yet," she said. "We hold until he comes back. Give him a chance to explain it himself." Brenda nodded. "If he doesn't, then we flip the switch." Outside the building, protesters began gathering. Some held signs in support of government transparency. Others demanded Patel be held accountable. Journalists jostled for position along the rope lines. By the time Patel returned, 35 minutes later, America had already passed judgment. He didn't storm in this time. He slipped quietly into the room. Jacket off, shoulders tense, no smirk. The cameras caught it all. Chairman DuPont resumed the hearing. "Mr. Patel, you may respond to the new evidence submitted during your absence." Patel leaned toward his mic. His voice was no longer defiant. It was measured, worn. Some of the language in those documents, he began, was never meant to be taken literally. Jasmine tilted her head. So burner phones, encrypted servers, and instructions to bury the memo, those were metaphors? It was slang, internal shorthand. Jasmine raised a single sheet. Then let's clear it up. This text, dated March 15th, clean the inbox, don't leave trails, move everything to Signal. Is that also slang? Patel hesitated. That was precautionary. Brenda quietly tapped her tablet. A screen behind Jasmine lit up with a digital audit trail. Jasmine gestured to it. We have metadata showing full message deletions within 30 minutes of that text, 92 files purged, 15 emails forwarded to personal accounts. Mr. Patel, if that's precaution, what does destruction look like? Patel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then he sighed, a long, low exhale. I was following protocol, he said softly. One we all knew, one we all used. The committee room shifted. That word, we. Chairman DuPont leaned forward. Mr. Patel, please clarify, who is we? Patel stared at the desk. His knuckles whitened. The task force, he said finally. There were 5 of us, all briefed, all involved. And who authorized the deletion of classified references? Jasmine asked. I can't say, he whispered. Can't? Won't. Brenda passed Jasmine a smaller document this time, a single page, but it was the one they had been waiting to use. Jasmine looked directly at Patel. Because if you don't, I will. The room froze. Jasmine held the single-page document in her hand like it was the last domino in a pattern the world had just started noticing. Patel stared across the table, and for the first time all day, there was nothing performative in his silence. It was raw, and everyone in the chamber knew it. Chairman DuPont broke the pause. Mr. Patel, are you prepared to name the other members of this so-called task force? Patel's lips parted, but no sound came. The tension in his jaw told the story. The lawyer beside him gripped his pen so tightly, the clip snapped off. Brenda leaned toward Jasmine. It's now or never. So, Jasmine spoke, her voice unwavering. This document, she said, raising it for the record, is a signed directive. It outlines a coordinated communications blackout plan. 5 names. Patel is one. The rest are redacted. But I have the unredacted version right here. She placed it on the table like it weighed more than it looked. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Phones buzzed in reporters' hands. Patel leaned back in his chair, eyes closed for a breath. When he opened them, the sharpness was gone. He looked tired, like someone who'd finally realized he couldn't outrun what was coming. You don't want to read that, he said. Jasmine met his gaze. Then say their names yourself. Patel exhaled hard. If I do this, I want protection. Chairman DuPont signaled a recess, but Jasmine shook her head. With respect, Mr. Chairman, we've given him more than enough chances. If he wants to protect others, now is the moment. If not, I'll read every name into the record. There was silence. Then Patel whispered, Devlin, Marquez, Sanders, Lowell. The room exploded in gasps. Chairman DuPont gavelled for order. Reporters scrambled. Brenda's tablet lit up with alerts from newsrooms across the country. Patel wiped his mouth with a shaking hand. We weren't the architects. We were the operators. We executed the plan because we were told it was necessary to protect national integrity. And who told you that? Jasmine asked. Patel stared at the floor. Someone higher up. I never had a name, just the orders. Brenda leaned to Jasmine. That's why the voice memo matters. Jasmine nodded. Bring it up. A screen behind them flickered on. Static. Then audio. A male voice, not Patel's. Cold, calm, commanding. If this gets out, it won't be Patel who takes the hit. He's disposable. Keep the chain clean. No emails, no names. A still frame appeared on the screen. Security cam footage. A timestamp, a blurred profile slowly turning. Brenda whispered, We traced the voice print. It's real. Jasmine turned to the chairman. I request this be entered into the public record. and that a full criminal referral be made to the Department of Justice. Chairman DuPont paused, then nodded. Let the record reflect the submission of Exhibit 29, audio memo and surveillance evidence, referral request pending. Patel closed his eyes. He wasn't just cracked, he was finished. Outside the chamber, protesters began chanting. Live feeds rolled. And across the nation, Americans, from veterans in Florida to high school students in Oregon, sat stunned. Because this wasn't just politics. This was truth, unfiltered, on camera. And no one could spin it fast enough to stop what was coming next. The hearing room emptied slowly, like air leaking from a pressurized chamber. Staffers didn't speak. Journalists walked out in quiet disbelief, already composing headlines in their heads. Outside, the crowd had swelled beyond the barriers. Some chanted, others just watched the building, waiting to see who would walk out next. Inside, Jasmine remained seated. Her hands rested calmly on the folder, now closed. Brenda stood beside her, blinking back the weight of what they'd just witnessed. Chairman DuPont leaned toward his mic, his voice quiet but resolute. This committee will enter an extended review. We will forward this testimony and all related materials to the Department of Justice for further investigation. B. Kash Patel stood slowly, not defiant now, but resigned. His lawyer placed a hand on his back, guiding him out the side door. No cameras followed, no exit interviews, just the long, silent walk of a man who had run out of lies. The nation did not wait. By the time Jasmine stepped outside, the street was lined with people from every walk of life. Teachers, veterans, young interns in blazers, mothers with toddlers on their hips. A woman in her 70s clutched a folded American flag to her chest and whispered, "That's what courage looks like." Jasmine didn't smile for the cameras. She simply nodded to those who stood watching, like she understood the weight of the moment wasn't hers alone to carry. Across America, the hearing replayed on every screen. Airport lounges, barbershops, church foyers, assisted living centers where elderly veterans sat upright in their chairs, watching the moment Patel admitted it all. At a school in Kansas, a civics teacher paused her lesson and played the clip of Jasmine calmly presenting Exhibit 29. "This," she told her class, "is what it looks like when truth breaks through." In a diner in Alabama, an older couple, lifelong conservatives, sat in silence before the husband muttered, "Doesn't matter what side you're on. That woman just told the truth on national TV." Online, the explosion continued. Hashtags flooded platforms, just truth over power. Jasmine broke the chain, so no one above accountability. Even lawmakers who had stayed quiet began issuing statements. Some praised her, some distanced themselves from Patel. A few tried to soften the story, but it was too late. The narrative had outgrown them, because it wasn't about sides anymore. It was about how many people had waited their whole lives to see someone tell the truth and not flinch. Within 48 hours, the Department of Justice confirmed receipt of the hearing transcript and digital evidence. Federal agents began reviewing communication logs. 2 members of the so-called task force, named by Patel, were placed under internal review. A federal grand jury was quietly impaneled. In the shadows of government buildings, staffers began scrubbing email chains, but some, those who had watched the hearing, stopped and printed copies instead. Because Jasmine had made it clear, silence is complicity, and complicity doesn't look good on camera. Meanwhile, Patel's legal team released a short statement. Mr. Patel cooperated fully with the hearing. He stands by his previous work and looks forward to further clarification in the appropriate legal setting. Nobody bought it, because the image of him hunched in that chair, eyes down, voice broken, that image said more than any press release ever could. Jasmine, for her part, declined interviews. She didn't appear on the morning shows or book a CNN hit. When a reporter caught her outside her district office that Friday, she only said, "I'm glad the truth got the microphone." And that line stuck. It was printed on t-shirts. It became the headline on front pages. People began posting it in bios. High school students quoted it in essays. Ministers referenced it in sermons. Because it felt like something was shifting. Not because one woman took down one man, but because a nation saw the system blink and then begin to correct itself. A week later, another envelope arrived at Jasmine's office. No return address. Inside was a single USB drive and a handwritten note. Keep watching. You're not done yet. Brenda looked up from the note and met Jasmine's eyes. You think it's more? Jasmine nodded slowly. Or someone's telling us where to look next. Because behind every lie exposed is the truth someone's still trying to hide. And now, people were paying attention. People like Melinda Kash, the 28-year-old aide who had found the memo buried in an archive no one thought mattered. She still hadn't told anyone, still hadn't come forward. But she watched from her apartment, heart pounding. She knew what she'd done, and she knew it wasn't over. Because truth doesn't end when the gavel drops. It echoes. And in a time when trust feels fragile, when lies come packaged in press conferences and polite statements, people are searching for something real. That's what Jasmine gave them. Not drama, not theater, truth. So if you've been watching and something inside you stirred, if you've ever wanted to believe in accountability and transparency, in the idea that one voice can make a difference, then this isn't just a story. It's a turning point. Share this story. Comment below with your thoughts. And if you believe truth still matters in America, subscribe now, because they're hoping you forget. We're here to make sure you don't.